Hello, welcome to the final whistle with me, Kenzie, Benali.
And me, Steve Forbes.
Well, thanks to Vestergaard's late equaliser. It finishes 3 apiece at Stamford Bridge. Let's bring our guests into the fold now to dissect that game. It's welcome back to Dean Hammond and Adam Leitch. We're going to start with you, Dean, actually, because you did say it wasn't going to finish 3-3. I'm sorry, we have to bring it up. How do you sum that game up?
Well, I'm glad it did finish 3-3, so that's a good thing. I don't mind being... a brilliant game. A game of two halves, I'd say. I think Chelsea completely dominated the first 30 minutes of the game. Looked a class above, looked like a really good team. Given there was a couple of defensive mistakes by Southampton. The goal before half-time was extremely important. It changed the dimension of the game. It would have changed the manager's approach for second half, the information he would have given the players. And then Southampton came out second half with just a lot hungrier, they looked fitter, they looked stronger. They were first to the ball. Just a different team, really. Pressed higher up the pitch, won second balls. And the attacking players came alive second half, I thought. And the two centre midfield players actually made a huge difference in terms of they just put their foot on the ball and had a bit more possession, got a few passes in, which unsettled Chelsea. And they were winning the balls back and then breaking. So, look, a fantastic point. You're most dangerous when you equalise. At 2-2, Southampton were obviously high. Vestergaard, again, a little bit of sloppy in possession, give the ball away. Chelsea break and score. But then another brilliant reaction to come back and score. I think it was 90+2 to get the point away from home against a top team against Chelsea is just brilliant. It will breed confidence. So a really good result. Happy I'm wrong, and it was a good 3-3 draw. So long may that continue.
Adam, what did you make of that performance?
Yeah, well, first of all, a really enjoyable game of football. Just really, really great game. As we called it beforehand, we might not have called 3-3, but we did say we thought there'd be goals. We'd have two attacking teams. Defences definitely wouldn't be on top, and that was exactly how it turned out. I think Saints were, in the end, very good value for their point. You feel like had the game gone on just a little bit longer, it was Saints who were the more likely to get a winner rather than Chelsea. So I think a very, very pleasing performance for Ralph and for Saints. And Redmond coming back in. Yeah, okay, looked a little bit rusty perhaps, but good to get him back in. Great to get Walcott in the team, and he really grew into the game as it went on. He really improved as the match went on. Yes, plenty to work on defensively for sure, but that wasn't just for Saints. But to go to Stamford Bridge, regardless of whether there's fans or not, against the quality that Chelsea have got, and particularly in attack, and come away with a good point and almost feel like you could have got all three. It's a great sign for where Saints are at the moment, where their confidence is, where the momentum is, and where they're heading this season, which is hopefully further up the table.
Yeah, you say there, Adam, that it could have been all three, and I suppose getting that late equaliser and securing a point. Dean, is that almost going to feel like a win? And how much confidence is that going to give the team knowing that they can do that in the final minutes of a game?
It will definitely feel like a win. The atmosphere in the dressing room will be very high after coming back and scoring last minute. That's always a buzz to do that. Obviously, from a manager's and a coach's perspective, the manager will be slightly disappointed with the goals that were conceded. But no, to get that point at Stamford Bridge against a top quality Chelsea team who've invested a lot of money, who were 2-0 up at the time and flying high, to come back to make it 2-1 to 2-2 to concede a goal to make it 3-2 and then come back at 3-0 will breed massive confidence. And again, it's the away form that Southampton are continuing from last season. You've got to remember, this is a top 4 team that Southampton have played today, and they've held their own and more, really. Had lots of chances away from home, created chances, looked confident, especially second half. I love it when the Southampton team play with freedom like they did second half. They're aggressive on the ball, they win the ball back, runners in behind, they were stretching Chelsea. The combinations between Adams and Ings, I love. I think they're getting a real understanding of playing together, and I just think it bodes well for the season. Like Adam said, Southampton have got a really good team now that look like they enjoy playing with each other, and it's a brilliant point. A 3-3, which is an entertaining game, so it's good for us to watch. but it's a brilliant point away from home.
Well, we'll come on to Danny and Shay's goals later on in the show, but let's talk about Vestergaard's equaliser now. Adam, does that kind of show the threat that he brings up the other end of the pitch?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's been a feeling that really he should have contributed more. I mean, the guy's an absolute monster. He's huge. I mean, anybody who stood next to him, I'm sure, has been towered above when you're constantly looking up. He's huge. He's a massive guy. He should probably score more goals. Ironic that this was a stooping header rather than a towering leap in the air type header. But also credit to Theo Walcott there, because I think that was great intelligence from Theo. He kind of showed his experience, because he kind of read what was going to happen, I think, or what could happen, and just dropped off to the edge of the area to pick up the loose ball. It came his way. Wasn't the greatest shot in the world, but it just got it back into the mix, into the danger area, and just great reactions from Vestergaard to kind of get down quickly and just direct it into the corner. It was real reactionary manoeuvre from him, really, because that ball was coming pretty quick. So yeah, great credit to him, because I think it's also fair to say he certainly hadn't had the easiest day defensively up until that point. He'd been run ragged, him and Bednarek, in spells, not consistently, but in spells. So to kind of come up with a goal right at the death, I mean, he'll be absolutely on cloud nine tonight, you would think, and yeah, pretty confident, I would imagine, of retaining his place again.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the goals that sort of kicked it all off, which was Chelsea's double by Timo Werner. Dean, do you think Saints are going to be frustrated at the way that those were conceded?
I think they'll be frustrated. I think Werner was, the first goal was an excellent piece of skill. He just caught the defender off guard and cold, and it was a good dummy and a good running behind, and then the defenders got back, and I actually thought they were going to clear it with some blocks, but he moved the ball well, and it was a good strike. And the second one is, I think it's just a lack of concentration. It's a ball over the top that the defence reacted to, where they should have probably seen it coming a little bit earlier. So then got himself in a difficult position, tried to head the ball back to McCarthy and kind of misjudged the header. Again, another good finish, but I think the word you use there is frustration. They could have been dealt with better. But Chelsea at that point had the momentum, were playing very, very well. McCarthy made some good saves. There was obviously the disallowed goal as well. So I think they can do better with that. They'll look at that themselves and probably judge themselves and analyse it themselves and think, well, actually, I could have been in a better position. I could have moved my feet quicker. So frustration, I think, is the right word.
Adam, I want to invite your thoughts on this. As Dean's just alluded to, Chelsea's front line is clearly impressive, but do you think that's an excuse for some of the goals we conceded today?
I'm not so sure. I mean, I think Ralph will probably be fairly critical. I would think, knowing Ralph, he's definitely a perfectionist. He's driving his team to be a better team and to improve all the time, and I'm sure he'll highlight those areas. I mean, the first couple especially were fairly routine goals to concede. They're not the kind of goals you really want to let in. Okay, Chelsea have got great attacking players. If they score because they just cut you apart, sometimes you have to hold up your hand and say, fair enough, they're just really, really good. If you kind of let them in, that's frustrating. I mean, a couple of questions around Bednarek as well. I think it's unfair that just Vestergaard gets singled out here, because I think Bednarek didn't cover himself in glory in those moments. And the third goal, I mean, Vestergaard, I'm not quite sure where he's going. He suddenly turned into a overlapping left winger. I'm not quite sure what he was thinking there. So yeah, frustration, but also things to learn from. And it's so much better to learn from them when you've kind of got out of a difficult game with a point like that than it is if it's the pain that causes you a defeat. So I think for Saints, plenty of learning opportunities there. So plenty of opportunities for them to grow and develop still. So I don't think Ralph will for 1 second allow the excuse of, well, these are really good guys, because at the end of the day, most Premier League clubs have really good guys up front. And if you give them a sniff, then most of the time they will take it. And that's what Chelsea did. When Saints presented them opportunities, they took them. For Saints, the challenge is to make themselves harder to break down, to make it so teams have to play really well to get through you. And I think that is the learning that he'll take. But it's also, you can see teams as a goals as a team as well, beg your pardon. So I think there were other elements of that. And we saw in the second half, I think Saints pressed so much more effectively in the second half than they did in the first. And that was also part of it. It was way too easy to get those balls in around and over the top in the first half. But in the second, Saints were much more effective in that. They were much more disciplined. And that's more players further up the pitch and not just the centre half. So I think as a whole team, there are plenty of lessons for them there. But at least you learn them when you come away feeling relatively happy with the result.
Yeah, well, it was doubly disappointing for Kenzie and I because we both took Timo Werner out of our fantasy team. So, you know, that would have been at least a bit of a silver lining of getting the points there. But Danny Ings did pull it.
I didn't make that mistake, Steve.
Sorry?
I didn't make that mistake.
No, well.
I didn't make that mistake.
You didn't even look at your team.
Adam, the FPL guru.
But away from Chelsea's goals, let's move on to the good stuff. Danny Ings, he did pull one back just before half-time. Dean, how important was it for him and for the team to get a goal at that point?
Yeah, very important because I think, like I said, the first half an hour, Chelsea were dominant. But that last 10, 15 minutes of the first half, the midfield players started getting more touches of the ball. The fullbacks started getting higher up the pitch, which enabled us to kind of camp Chelsea in for a little bit. And it was a superb finish from Danny, an excellent run, an aggressive run, a good assist from Shea Adams. Again, them two combining, looking for each other. And just, he's so calm in that position. You know, some players may have had shot earlier. He's waited for the keeper's movement. He's come off his line. He's dropped his shoulder. He's moved to his right and calmly put it away. So that is the quality of Danny Ings. He doesn't need many opportunities. And in a one-on-one situation like that, with a calm head and a good touch, it's an excellent finish. And it changed the dimensions of the game, really, because at 2-0, I think it's going to be very difficult for Southampton to get back into the game. At 2-1, Chelsea go into the dressing room feeling different, and Southampton go into the dressing room on a high, thinking, OK, we've got an opportunity now, we've got a chance, we know we can improve. Chelsea probably couldn't have got any better, but Southampton could, and they did. So that goal made it a really, really important time, and it would have just lifted Southampton and deflated Chelsea a little bit. So, no, a great finish, a really good assist from Shea, and I think that was the changing point and the turning point of the game for Southampton.
We'll talk about those goals in just a moment, but for now let's bring the fans into the mix. Lots of buzz on social media, as you'd expect after that result at Chelsea. Richard, hello to you. He says, wow, what a game. If we'd had another 4 minutes, we would have won that one. I agree with you there, Richard. Mark has also left us a comment on YouTube. He said, good result and a great performance. Callum, good afternoon. He said, huge point today, lads. Great birthday present for me as well. Oh, happy birthday to you, Callum. And Paul, hello. He says, Ralph does it once again. Whatever he's doing during those half-time talks with the squad, it's absolutely working. And a final one for now then from Gary. He's on Facebook. He says Theo looked good back in a Saints jersey. He certainly did, didn't he, Steve?
Yeah, he certainly did. Loads of happy fans. But we're going to move on to Shea's goal. Now, I'm sure we were all up celebrating when that went in. We've bemoaned on the show his lack of luck across various games, but his luck was very much in this time. Bit of a calamity at the back for Chelsea, though, Adam.
Yeah, it was an absolute disaster, wasn't it? I mean, it was a terrible header, and then I've got no idea what Kepa's up to. I mean, he seems to have forgotten that he can use his hands. I don't know what he's trying to do. The sort of attempted first challenge is awful, and then he obviously gets himself in a right old tangle around the post, and basically almost unwittingly provides the assist. But yeah, I mean, you've got to credit Shea. I mean, like Dean said, he kind of went slightly overlooked, I think, at times, but not by us. I don't think here with the Saints hat on about how well Shea did with that assist to win the ball back and then set Danny away, and then a really good finish as well. I mean, yes, he was presented with an opportunity, but he still had to take it. There was still, there was a lot of confusion, I imagine, in that moment. It was there were bodies all over the place. There were Chelsea players on the line, and I think had he just struck it low, there was every chance that ball would have been cut out because there were Chelsea bodies back on the line and in the way. But he had the presence of mind to hit it firmly and hit it high into the roof of the net, and really that was how he managed to score. And that is a good striker's goal, because that's an instinctive thing. He probably just saw it out the corner of his eye, knew what he had to do, turned. As he turned, he executed it perfectly. And I don't think there's anybody who would think, watching his performances this season, would begrudge him, perhaps a slight element of fortune to get the chance. And then he took it. And I think we saw last year, we said so many times, he just needs a goal to get going. He just needs a goal to get going. His performances are really good. And I think that's kind of the feeling that he's going to get a role, get on some momentum, score goals in bunches. And him and Danny, as we've said, they look like a great pairing. They were great to get together again today. There's lots of positives, and if Che can contribute more goals, to support Danny in the goal scoring front, then it's going to be a great season for Saints.
Well, we did anticipate that we were going to see a lot of goals today. Dean, in hindsight, do you think that we did get the attacking tactics right today?
Yes, I think it was the right approach by the manager. The only thing I'd say, it was a little bit conservative first half, where we had a lot of attacking players on the pitch, but didn't quite have the attacking momentum that they could have brought, or the creative momentum they could have brought. Now, that might be down to how well Chelsea played, but I think second half, when we pressed higher up the pitch and won the ball back quicker, we could get the attacking players into the game, and they could combine together. They had more space, more initiative to play forward and turn. I think this, in the second half, the forward players, especially the wide players, got the opportunity to turn and run at the back four and either slide a ball in or get a shot away themselves. So I think it was the right tactics, because there was always going to be goals. Chelsea like to attack, and Southampton, the philosophy at the football club is to play creative, forward-thinking football. So why change that? And that was evident of that second half. When Southampton are on the front foot, when they play in a positive manner, when they take risks and they're brave and they're aggressive, they're a really strong team. And they're going to be a game for anyone this season when they play in that manner. So I think the tactics were right. I just think first half we can either say Chelsea played really, really well, or we were a bit conservative and a little bit negative in our approach. So brilliant performance second half, and the manager got it spot on again.
Stuff. Now, we did hear the fans obviously very excited to see Theo Walcott back in a Saints shirt. But Adam, what did you make of his overall performance today?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, Steve, they're right to be excited. It was great to see him back after all these years. A little bit nostalgic as well, I think, for most of us who had seen him first time around. And yeah, I thought he did well. I mean, first half was difficult, as Dean said. It was probably slightly more conservative, despite having such attacking strength on the pitch. But then I would say the flip side of that was that Saints were relatively disciplined. I think. I wonder if there was just a little bit of caution from Ralph about overcommitting, and maybe that kind of caused them to be a bit more conservative. But nonetheless, you could see some discipline from Theo as well. Quite different from the sort of precocious talent of a 16-year-old that we remember. Very much more experience and discipline display. And then in the second half, really, as Saints kind of unleashed their attacking prowess a lot more, as they pressed higher, Chelsea struggled to get out. Saints got their foot on the ball a lot more as well. When they won possession, they kept it a lot better. You really saw Theo starting to shine and being in his first game, being a leader. He was really leading that drive from Saints, using all his experience and knowledge that he's gained in all these years that he's been away from the club as well. It just looks like a great signing. He's not. People have to remember, he's not the player that left Saints. He's not that 16-year-old kid. He's not probably quite as quick as he was. He's not got those kind of assets, but he's gained so much more as an all-round player. He's a very experienced guy now. He's played a lot of games. He's scored a lot of goals. He's played at an incredibly high level for a long period of time. He's got a lot of knowledge as well that can help Saints along, as well as his ability. And I think we saw that as the game wore on. So to be talking so glowingly about him after game one, I think is a really encouraging sign, and it really gives you a lot of hope that this is going to be a great signing for Saints.
Well, Jonathan Phillips on Facebook is one of the fans who is delighted to see Theo back in a Saints shirt. He says, great result, lads, and great first game back for Theo. A few more comments here. Thank you for getting in touch. We've got one here from the Saints #1 on YouTube. They said, we were brilliant, well played, Saints. Andrew Williams, hello to you. He says, I'm delighted with the points, which we thoroughly deserved after that second half performance. Bring on Everton now. John Searle on Facebook says, well played, lads, never gave up. Another comment here from Chris. He says, great point after going 2 down, battled to the end and got what we deserved. And Adrian has said, great to see Theo playing and Shea scoring too.
Yeah, you mentioned bring on Everton now. That leads us nicely onto this one, Dean. We've got them next time out. They're having a great season so far. They got a 2-2 draw with Liverpool today. They're a somewhat surprise package up at the top of the Premier League or thereabouts. Are you expecting a tough one?
Yeah, it'll be a tough fixture. I watched the game 2 weeks ago against Brighton, and they look like a good team. They've made some excellent signings. They've got a very good manager, and one thing they do have now is that they're a lot more disciplined. They work off a shape where last year they didn't look quite as fit or as strong as they should be. They've got some attacking players, but they kind of turned up when they wanted to. So the manager's brought a real professionalism to the club. So they look a threat, and another good result today for them against Liverpool. So they'll be brimming with confidence. But Southampton are going to be, I keep saying it, going to be a test for anyone. I'm not just saying that because we're on the show, but the attacking force that Southampton have, there's not many better in the Premier League. There really isn't, and that combination and that partnership that Shea and Danny Ings are forming together, the understanding they're having together. It's going to be so dangerous for teams playing against them. They're really, there's something special about them too. And I think if we can keep them fit and keep them hungry, and the one thing I like about both of them, they both celebrate for each other when one of them scores. You don't always get that in striker partnership. It's quite a funny thing in football. Strikers that play together don't always get along. They might be good players and form good partnership, but they're not always good friends. But them two look that they are. So Southampton are going to be a threat for anyone. But it'll be a tough game because you're right. Everton have started well and they're a good team, and I believe they're still top of the league. So, bring it on. Both teams will be hungry. Both teams will be confident after the weekend's result. So it should be a good test.
Yeah, it certainly will be, Adam, especially with the likes of Calvert-Lewin in their ranks. What does Ralph need to do to stop him? Because he really is on fire at the moment.
Well, I mean, that's nobody can stop him at the moment. I think that is so. It is a difficult question, and whether Saints can or not is hard to say. But I just hope that Saints approach the game like they did today's game, because that real attacking intent. Not only is it great for us, is it exciting to see, but actually, I completely agree with Dean. There aren't that many teams that have got that level of attacking depth that Saints have. Well, certainly attacking talent they've got in their first 11, and then a bit more behind on the bench as well if they need it. And while you don't want to be having to score 4 goals every week to win a game, obviously, I do kind of think that sometimes you have to, as a manager, assess your team and say, well, maybe with everything I've got in my squad, attack is the best form of defence sometimes. And I think that's kind of, I feel, where Saints are this season. I don't feel if they are perhaps the team that are gonna easily be able to sit in, be super disciplined, put 11 people behind the ball, play really deep, no space between the lines, and shut teams out. I just don't feel that that's playing to their strengths, and I don't think that they should focus on that. Yes, they've got to worry about Calvert-Lewin. They've got to try and stop the supply into him. Really, that's going to be the key for them, and getting their press right from the start, which they didn't do against Chelsea today. They kind of adapted that in the second half, but also not tempering their own game too much when they play these other teams. They've got every right to be confident and to feel they can score goals. So yeah, okay, sharpen up a little bit at the back, but I actually think the attacking nature of their game, putting those attacking players out, putting other teams on the back foot, and getting that press right from the start will actually still be able to make you competitive against the big teams. It's not going crazy. It's not going, guns out the whole time and exposing yourself, but it's just using your strengths and being confident enough to use your strengths and not always feel like you have to compromise because of what your opponents put out on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, one player in that Everton lineup that seems to be getting a lot of negative attention at the moment is their keeper, Jordan Pickford. Dean, is he someone that Saints can get at and try and exploit?
Yeah, I think it's difficult with Jordan. I think he's very low on confidence. He's a very good goalkeeper, particularly his kicking. He's obviously England's #1. He's playing for a top club in Everton, but he does seem to have an error in him and does seem to make mistakes. He'll make an exceptional save, or his shot stopping's brilliant, but then he'll come for a simple cross and seem to drop it. And I think that's just lack of concentration. So, you know, if I was Southampton, it would be something that I would encourage putting crosses into the box, test him early with some shots, especially with James Ward-Prowse's delivery. I'd put pressure on him, and I think that's the way forward. I feel for Jordan, because as a goalkeeper, you know, if you make a mistake, there's no one there to clear up for you. You make a mistake as a goalkeeper, it's generally a goal, and that gets highlighted. So he is under a little bit of scrutiny, but that's because he's England's #1. So yeah, I would put pressure on him. I'd put early crosses in the box. I would get some shots and test him, and that's the way I would look at the game. But he's an excellent goalkeeper. I just think he's going through that period where he's young and he's a little bit inconsistent.
Well, for the final time today, let's head back to socials and see what's being said by the fans. Too many comments to get through, really. Lots of you are clearly very happy with that result. Pharrell said, great play, especially at the end. I was expecting us to sit on the draw, but we went for the win and we almost had it. Chris, hello to you. He says, quality result. Just wish the fans were there. It certainly is strange times at the moment, Chris, but hopefully we'll be back soon. Colin, good evening. He says, great result and even better manager. Alan is buzzing. He says, what a team, 2-0 down, and to draw 3-3 away is a good result. Well done. I'm proud to be a Saints fan, as are we. Now, Dean's got in touch and he says, in the past we would have crumbled, but not these days. And Tim says, Vestergaard, what a player. Walcott looked delighted to be back too. So absolutely buzzing on social media, Steve.
Yeah, indeed. Right, so it's about time to wrap it up. Gentlemen, Dean and Adam, thank you very much for joining us once again. Hope you've enjoyed being in your cosy, warm homes while we're pitchside.
I think they have.
Yeah, lovely.
They look nice and toasty.
Right, so the nerves have settled. The Saints did manage a late equaliser to grab a 3-3 draw away at Chelsea. We'll be back next time where they'll play Everton. So enjoy the rest of your weekend and we'll see you then.